The woman in the wedding dress. I apologize in advance for any errors. I'm posting this on my phone quickly before work. Also, this isn't really scary, but definitely creepy. I'm a 26-year-old female with a 16-year-old brother and have lived in Queens, New York my whole life. 10 years ago, for those too lazy to do math, I was 16 and my brother was 6. I decided to take my brother to a massive street fair on a main street that stretched very far. The street was shut down. There were some scattered officers of the law, and everything else was street vendors and some awesomely shitty little carnival ride for kids. A group of my friends joined us. In total, there was 10 of us. After having a fun-filled afternoon, introducing my brother to the deep-fried goodness of Zippoles and whatnot, we went to a pizzeria right by the fair. The place wasn't wide, but was long. The booths that lined the wall on the right sat 3 people on each side. Then there was a narrow aisle and booths that sat 2 people on each side on the right. Being a half-decent big sister, I had my brother in the 6-seater booth in between me and a friend. This is where things start to get kinda creepy. In walks a man and woman who genuinely looked like they did way too many drugs. They were probably in their late 50s and early 60s. We wouldn't have noticed them if it wasn't for the fact that the woman was wearing a wedding dress. Long sleeves, puffy at the shoulders, and long but sort of form-fitting in a way. This dress, however, must have been once white, but was now yellowed with age and very dirty. She sat with a man parallel to our booth, our other friends sitting behind them, and a young couple with their 3 to 4-year-old daughter in front. The woman looked around, spotted my brother, and begins to talk to him. "You're adorable. How'd you like to come home with me?" My brother has always been a bright kid and ignores her, eating his pizza. "Come on, little boy. You don't want to be around these teens." I nicely turn my face to the lady and ask her politely to leave us alone. She stands up and comes to our table and tries to reach over to touch my brother when my friend stands up and blocks her. She goes and sits down and starts harassing the young couple and their daughter. After about 10 minutes, my brother announces he has to go to the bathroom. So when my brother stands up and heads for the bathroom 5 steps away, the woman asked him if he'd like her to help. At this point, I tell her to fuck off and leave my brother alone. She tries to push past me and rush to my brother in the bathroom, but another friend is standing in front of the door, basically guarding him. She curses me out and sits down. As soon as he comes out, I pick him up and carry him out. She's trying to grab him from me, but there's 10 of us and 1 of her. We go to the nearest officer and tell him what's up, and he runs to the pizzeria. Come to find out, she actually abducted a kid from the fair, but when the child started screaming bloody murder, she put him down and ran. Needless to say, Mace is my new best friend. Creepy carnival worker. So, this happened when I was younger, quite a while ago. But it's one of the creepiest things that's ever happened to me, and I thought y'all might like to hear it. Anyways, I was probably about 11 or 12 years old, and my mom dropped me and my younger brother off at this little carnival thing in the supermarket parking lot. I don't know if they really do stuff like that anymore, but they used to set up smaller carnivals with maybe like 10 rides and a couple of food vendors. Anyways, we had been there for maybe an hour, and I noticed that this guy had been watching us for a while, and then I realized that he was sort of following us around to the different rides. I figured he was one of the workers, since he was wearing a carnival hat, and his clothes were pretty much the same colors as the other people working there. I would look around and spot him watching us from a couple rides over, or standing next to one of the food stands. Now, I don't want to be an asshole, but this guy had the creepiest friggin' face. One of his eyes looked like it had been swallowed up by this huge swollen eyelid. He had these chapped lips that looked like they were bleeding in places, and he just kept following us around for like 30 minutes, mumbling to himself and staring. After a while, I decided that we should leave and find a way to call my mom. As we were about to leave the carnival area, literally about to walk through the exit, this guy hollers to both of us and grabs my brother's shoulder to pull him back in. He starts telling us that we're too young to be there alone and asking where our parents are. I mean, I was young, but there was tons of kids there even younger than us without their parents. He pulled us off to the side area between two rides and pushed us behind him, then just stood guard in front of us like that. I kept asking to use a phone to call my mother, since I was still hoping it was actually about us being too young to be there by ourselves. Finally, he gives me this phone that obviously has no SIM card in it or something, because it just displays that error message that old phones used to have. I kept begging him to let us go, and he kept muttering, "No, we're gonna take you somewhere real safe. Real safe." Then he starts laughing and asked if my mom had picked up, which obviously not, and saying he's going to have to take us himself since there's no one else to take us. Whatever the fuck he had planned. Finally, we see another worker walking by, and I yell out to her if I can use her phone. The guy immediately freezes and then just starts walking away like nothing happened. I explained to the woman what had happened, and she just looked really confused and kind of worried. I didn't find out until a couple years later, but I guess she told my mom that she didn't think the guy even worked there, that she had never seen him before in her time working. So that happened. Okay, so after reading these stories on here, I had to share my own account with a creeper. I was about 12 to 13 years old at the time, and it was around the 4th of July. Every year around this time, the town I grew up in would have a 4th of July fair in the center of town. It was always a great place to get together with friends without parents, which at that age is a treat. So, a few of my friends and I were walking around the fair just hanging out. It was super hot that day, the middle of summer and all, and we were all in tank tops and shorts. Mind you, we were still prepubescent at this point. We all blossomed a bit later. So as we stop in front of a carnival game, I turn and see this man, probably mid-30s, in a full cycling gear with sunglasses on. Not weird, there's plenty of cycling enthusiasts in our town. The thing that grabbed my attention, however, was that his hand was down his pants. Me, being a naive 12-year-old girl at the time, I laughed and just thought he was adjusting his tight biker shorts or something. As we walked away, I whispered to my friends to check out the guy fixing his shorts, and they looked and also found it funny. We carried on with our day and forgot about the man. Eventually, I don't really remember who approached us specifically, but an older friend of ours told us to get on the sidewalk immediately. When we complied, she told us that the man in the biking gear had been following us around the fair. We were kind of behind a lot of the carts, so we weren't in the main part of the fair where everyone could see, and continued to have his hand down his pants, masturbating as he was following us. Someone obviously called the police and arrested the guy. I heard later that they searched his car and found porn inside, and a few other suspicious items, but I never heard any more about him or who he was. My friends and I never really mentioned it after that as well. I don't think we fully grasped the situation at the time, and just kinda blocked it out. I mean, still to this day, almost 10 years later, it makes me squirm when I think about it. Let's not meet again ever, creepy cyclist. A knife behind his back. First time posting and I'm on mobile. Forgive me for any errors. Every year, our small town has a fairly popular carnival and rodeo. It's pretty much the only thing anyone around here looks forward to, or loathes, considering how many drunk tourists seem to find their way here and make fools of themselves dressing like cowboys. One night, during the carnival 2 years ago, my mom decided to take my brother, myself, and 2 of my friends for the night to have some fun. We ended up parking on a residential street a few blocks away from the fairgrounds because there's no parking pretty much anywhere else. After a half-assed attempt at remembering the name of the street and the general area where we left our car, we all went on our way. Well, later that night, we couldn't remember for the life of us exactly where the car was. We searched street after street for 30 minutes with no luck. Finally, my mom, after seeing how tired we all were, told us to sit on the curb and wait while she went and looked. We were all well aware of stranger danger, and we're in a nice neighborhood. Plus, the community rarely has problems with violence of any sort, so we, 3 15-year-old girls and 1 12-year-old boy, thought there was nothing to worry about. 5 minutes after my mom disappeared, we hear the grass crunching on the lawn behind us, and all of us whip around to see who was now standing there. An older, lanky man with a hunchback and the coldest expression I'd ever seen was staring at us. Because his back was hunched, he stood there kind of crookedly. He didn't move or blink as he glared at us. "Why are you sitting on my curb?" he snapped, still not moving. It was unnerving how still he was. We immediately felt guilty, thinking this was just some scared or confused old man wondering why some teenagers were sitting outside of his house. I explained the situation to him, that my mom had gone to find our car and we would move across the street if we were bothering him. He stayed silent for a few seconds, then stared me down and said, "Come inside." The next few minutes are a blur, as my adrenaline had kicked in and I was getting more and more scared of this man by the second. We didn't have the sense to just run for some reason. He kept repeating, "Come inside. What are you waiting for? Come inside my house. Get over here now. Get in my house." No matter what we said, he didn't seem to hear, and he thankfully didn't move from his spot on the lawn, like he just expected us to come with him. He was especially focused on my friend and I, just telling us over and over again to go with him inside his house no matter how much we tried to get it in his head that my mom was coming back soon. The look in his eyes just kept getting colder and more furious the longer he stood there. It didn't occur to me that his hand had been hidden behind his back the entire time, until my mom showed up. We were all relieved, saying, "See, we told you, there she is," and like. Now, my mom is a scary woman. She does not take shit, and she'll happily start throwing punches if she feels the situation calls for it. So immediately, she was in mama bear mode and furiously telling off this old man after she saw how freaked out we all were. He was just now starting to move back to his house. He slunk away from her and glared at the 4 of us, batting his free hand at her, cursing and mumbling to himself. We watched him go, and as he turned around, my blood went cold. In the hand that he had been hiding was a large knife. It glinted off the street lamp, and we all hurried away to our car that my mom had found. My friends and I tried to laugh it off, but we were all scared and not willing to be alone for the rest of the night. It's seriously scary to think about what was running through that old man's head, especially since he was holding that damn knife the whole time. So, creepy old man with a knife behind his back, let's not meet. Why I'm done with the local fair. Every year since about the 6th grade, I've gone to our little town fair. It used to be in the mall parking lot. Huge, well kept, polite staff, and always busy for the week or so it was here. But the last 2 years it's been rather small and kinda shady. Rude staff, moved to a smaller empty lot behind our local Outback. This year, my boyfriend took me. As a little, I'm sorry we're not going to prom. We're walking around for a little bit. It's still pretty early in the day, so it seems like mostly little kids and their parents are there. Him and I decide we go to ride the bull, something I've done quite a few times growing up going to rodeos. This was his first time. I paid for him and begged him to do it with me. I explained what he has to do, how he can't hold it with 2 hands and whatnot, and he does well for his first time, on about 15 seconds at full speed and shaking. Now it's my turn. I hop on and ride with no issues. I'm wearing skinny jeans, so I'm not entirely shocked when I get a wolf whistle about the little bit of lace that got flashed on one turn around, thinking it was just my boyfriend. I walk off and walk back up to him, dizzy, and a carny comes up and tells me I was one of the longest riders in this town. I quickly thank him and give him a big proud smile holding on to my boyfriend. He quickly pulls me away to the carousel and leans down to kiss me, and I stand up on my tiptoes to reach. The same carny apparently works this ride, comes up to us, and in the most sarcastic tone possible goes, "Aw, aren't you cute?" Keep in mind, this guy is probably about 30 years old and smells like weed mixed with fair food. He looks at my boyfriend and goes, "But maybe she deserves someone a little better fit for her, or at least knows how to ride a bull." I pull my boyfriend out of line, pissed off and grossed out. He tells me we'll go when the guy's not there. We walk around some more, and get some treats and ride some other things. Probably about an hour later, we head back to the carousel. I'm carrying my big stuffed koala bear and we get back in line. No sign of creepy carny. We get our wristband scanned and get on. I sit on the outside while my boyfriend sits on the middle horse. Ride's going, and suddenly creepy carny is back. He hops on quickly and holds onto the pole my horse is attached to. He just stares at me for a bit until I go. "Can I help you?" My boyfriend is watching, slightly amused. I'm not something to be messed with, and he knows as much. The carny looks at me, gross yellow teeth stretched out in a grin, and goes, "Yeah. How about you show me more of that lace and I'll get you a bigger bear than that sad thing." I'm completely disgusted and creeped out. I tell him to fuck off before I call the cops. And he's not getting the message still, until the ride stops and my boyfriend stands up. He towers over this guy and goes, "Hey, she said fuck off, or I'll have the cops here in 2 minutes. Creepy carny buggers off and follows around the rest of the night, until I'm so freaked out we'd have to leave. So, creepy carnival worker, let's not meet again.